do it that will mute it. Okay, friends. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on supplier relationship management. In short, called SRM. I know some people do also call vendor relationship management. What exactly we're going to talk about in SRM is nothing but how we do the close cooperation with key suppliers, with the key objective is to maximize the value of all interaction. Obviously, you're making purchase order, you're making contracts. So all those interaction, how do we get the value of money? How do we maximize the value and mitigate the risk? So that's the key objectives around. Some people think it is a buzzword, like any other things around. But I look at it this way. Procurement is evolving over the years. If you look back, it was the transactional procurements, tactical procurements, strategic sourcing, we talked about it. And then later on, this concept came of SRM. Now, some people do understand that if we have to maximize the value, we need the word called supplier relationship management. Relationship goes more than the contract sometimes. You sign a contract, people say, okay, guys, you have negotiated something with me. You will do something for me and I'll do something for you. It's a very formal relationship. In a formal relationship, sometimes you may not exceed what you're trying to look for. Let me put this way. If you look around the companies, manufacturing specifically, I would call it, even service industries, 60 to 70% of your sales revenue come from procurement and supply chain. If they're contributing so much, that means you're depending so much on supplier. At the end of the day, what innovation has to come is to come from suppliers. Anything you want, something quality or something that has to come from a supplier. So when we're talking of dependence on supplier, then the relationship becomes very important around. That's why the subject becomes supplier relationship management. This subject has been very popular with Japanese. I think they did a very good job when we talk of Toyotas, Hondas. And then people learn from that sometimes more than contracting, SRM also plays a key role. Well, friend, with this, let me go to the agendas. So our agenda for today would be understanding SRM. What is SRM? The overview of SRM. Then we are going to identify opportunities and benefits for rationalizing the supply base. Obviously, once you understand SRM, great. But the next thing comes is, what are the opportunities for me? What are the benefits for me on rationalizing the supply base? Because you've got a big supply base. You are not going to deal with everybody as a relationship part. You need to rationalize it. Then we'll also talk about is how do we manage effective relationship with suppliers. Suppliers have their relationship is also there. One relation should be a very contracting relationship. That you sign a contract, but whether it's effective or not. The next bullet talks about is develop and implement supply diversity program. This is a very popular subject. Mainly in the US, you will find people do talk of diversity. In your working environments, they want diversity of people with different backgrounds. Suppliers also, they talk about diversity. You should have suppliers not from one zone, spread over different places around. That way you are able to mitigate your risk as well. Next, the next issue which I'm going to talk about would be the develop new supplier qualification plan. So naturally you're going to make a relationship. So relationship means you're going to develop some better qualification plans, which can address the safety issues, which can address the reliability issues, regulatory and quality issues. Supplier performance evaluations. And the last bullet would be about develop and execute supplier exit strategy. Some suppliers don't do a good job. You made a strategic relationship with them. You build up into a relationship, but then you find things don't work the way you want. That's the exit strategies around. So this is broadly what we're going to cover around. The content of this is based on the CPSM course content, but does not mean it is only useful for those who are appearing for CPSM. It is useful to other people as well, the practitioners who are using SRM as a tool to maximize the value. So the key broad objective again from today's agenda would be to gain a better understanding of what type of challenges we get involved in implementing SRM. Now let's understand the whole evolution process. You all know very well, if I go a few years back, 15, 20 years back, procurement was purely, some places transactional, some became tactical. And the focus of procurement was to ensure the timely availability of the goods and services and ensuring accurate processing of the transactions around. Then came the concept of category managements, strategic sourcing. Those also helped us to cut down the cost, to make some savings. But then SRM goes one step forward than that. So you have made a relationship with someone, great relationship, you did the strategic sourcing, but until you get into SRM, you will not reap the right benefits from that. The step towards excellence, now the concept comes around in the part of this. Companies are now aware that the more we integrate and collaborate with suppliers to remain competitive. If my 70 to 80% of my sales revenue is coming through procurement, I'm depending on suppliers. If supplier can give me the state-of-art product, naturally my product also gets a mileage into the market. Then let's walk to the next one. I would say the definition of SRM. ISM definition talks about is the practice and the process for interacting with suppliers. You have suppliers, tons of suppliers. You're giving contract to those. Some are routine suppliers, some are leverage suppliers, some are dealing with your bottleneck items, some are dealing with your critical items. How do we interact with them? So that the whole practice part we'll talk about and the process as well. If you look at the Wikipedia, the definition is the discipline of strategically planning for and managing all interaction with third-party organizations whom you are outsourcing it in order to maximize the value of those interactions. Now here the SAP comes up. On the left side you see people are hand in hand. A comprehensive approach to managing an enterprise interaction with organizations supply the goods to you. That's the definition, come from the SAP around. Now, relationships, you're not going to win. Let's understand the term relationship. Some people think that I can thump on somebody and I can win it over. You're not going to win someone over by thumping them. You're going to love them to death. So you have to like them, you have to enjoy a relationship with them, only then you get the benefit of it. This shows you the spectrum of relationship. The relationship on the left side you see is adversarial. Your only interest is to give an order, that's all. Guys, I want this goods by 20th of May. If you don't give it, I'm going to terminate the contract. Very adversarial. Arm's length. You select somebody, you give a contract, then become transactional. You place an order, you follow up with them. Little more close tactical than single source. And then you're going to outsourcing. Then you're trying to say, okay guys, let me not do it myself. I'm outsourcing it. By function, I'm also sourcing. Then you're coming into strategic alliances. So alliances is one word around. One is collaboration, one is alliances. When we talk of alliances, it means the buyer and the seller are joining hands for the benefit of each other If as a buyer I'm getting any value, they should also get some values out of it. It is not for the benefit of one, it is for the benefit of both. That's what we call alliance. In a collaboration, you say, guys, I'm working this in collaboration with someone. I'm writing this book in collaboration with someone. But who gets the benefit more and who gets less is a different issue. But an alliances mean both are getting the values from it. It's a win-win situation. Then there's a partnership that you put some money together, you become joint and co-destiny around the, that's another one. So that shows you the whole relationship spectrum. So one on the right side is a very close relationship. On the left side is more like an arm's length. Here you can see in this spectrum, if you look at the very first, the quality of information exchange. When you keep adversarials, arm's length relationship, transactional relationship, it's very low. Because you don't treat each other as partner, as a family. While in the other extreme end, the relationships are better, quality of information exchange is high. The trust also you can see. Keep in mind, SRM is all about trust. If the trust is not there, SRM by namesake will not operate, will not give you due benefits at all. So if you look at the adversarial relationship, arm's length, trust is very minimal. Other side is a lot. People are open. Commitment is also there much more once you are going together. The duration in arm's length is only one shot, one contract, one relation, end of it. But once you become partners, you have alliances together, you work together. Risk assessment, risk management, you can see around the bigger spectrum in that way, each relation what they bring into you. Here let me also explain you because SRM is the next step to strategic sourcing. So let me put this way. In any organization's procurement process or supply management process, there's a one called sourcing and one called buying. In some organizations, they have a one vertical calling strategic sourcing, one vertical calling transaction procurement. So buying is nothing but P2P, purchasing to payments. It is purely transactional, while the sourcing is the one where you are trying strategic sourcing on the long term. And strategic sourcing is based on spend, what spend you have, what managing the demand, defining the sourcing strategy, and then managing the contracts around. So when we do the strategic sourcing, which I hope all of you know very well. So once you've done the strategic sourcing, we call it as a money on the table. That money on the table because you have made long-term arrangement with some supply sources. Then during the P2P and the buying stage, when you use those contracts, we call the money has gone into the bank. So money on the table comes from strategic sourcing. And during the procurement part, when you use the same contracts, with you have made the long-term arrangements, we call money in the bank. So this is again strategic sourcing and SRM. You can see all three together. Sourcing is there, procurement is there, and last is the vendor management. You may call supplier management. You may call supplier relationship management. So I use the word vendor because those people who are using ERP, whether it's Oracle, SAP, you know very well, those with whom you've done business, they're called vendor. So you're managing them. So some may like to call VRM, some may call SRM. Now this is another thing which I wanted to explain to you. You have a strategic sourcing contract. So the contract is signed. And when you do strategic sourcing, you say, guys, I'm going to make so much of savings around. But that saving after over some time, it starts dropping down. That's what you see as number 3, dropping down. Because nobody's caring and they say, oh, we have made a contract, end of it. Nobody's managing the contract. If you manage the contract, it may remain a straight line, like number 2. But if you're not managing the contract, you just said, okay, I've done a strategic sourcing. After some years, people say normally after 18 months something, it stops dying to low level. But if you want to really keep the momentum up of values, You want to get more values out of it. Then it comes to supplier collaboration. That means you're getting into SRM. So if you want to exceed more than that, you have to go to SRM. That's what the focus is. Now, when we talk of the key aspects of SRM, supplier relationship management, sharing of informations, because now you're partners, you're working together. Their value is your values, their benefit is your benefit. So it's all mirror image. So sharing of informations, working collaboratively together, team working has to be there, regular communication among the two parties. Even sometimes we connect those suppliers through ERP too. That means our system is also connected. Whatever plannings I make, they know very well of in a real-time basis. Then joint problem solving around. So if I have a problem or my supplier has a problem, we work together and try to solve it. Honesty is the key thing. But that brings the trust, mutual understanding. You understand each other, open in thoughts, and lastly again the trust. So all this put together are the aspects which are required to make SRM succeed. As I said in the beginning, SRM, the key objective is leveraging the supplier capability. Let's say I'm in an automobile company. I'm buying a transmission box from somebody, transmission gearbox. Now that is coming from a supplier. There may be many choices around. Each may have his own plus and minus. But if I get X brand fitted into my car, naturally if that brand is well known, it improves the profile of my car also. If I'm manufacturing the car, it improves my profile. Similarly, when you're buying, whether it's cameras or you're buying computers, and the Dell might be buying the chip from X or Intel or someone, if that is well known, naturally improves the profile of mine. So the supplier capability, I'm leveraging them. Second, I'm looking at delivering the cost savings. So in short, also, if we work together, they know my things, my plan very well in advance. Systems are connected. There's a trust among the two. I get cost saving as well. And then supply risk exposure is there also. Before I come to know the supplier is not able to deliver it, through third party, I know it because we work together. So my risk exposure is cut down, the risk is mitigated. So that's how I look at it. If you look at this one, in the whole life cycle management of procurement, strategic sourcing is pre-award. You're trying to capture it, the value. Now risk management, secure it. Contract management is assuring the value what you got in the strategic sourcing. So in a strategic sourcing, if you want to assure it, you need a very good contract management. You want to enhance its performance management, supplier performance management. The last come SRM. So up the stream, you can see around SRM is the key thing. I'm sure in your personal life also you must have seen relationship sometimes goes more than many things around. Relationship means the trust is there, honesty is there. You may try to help each other. So it is the success of both. If I go traditionally, here you can see the processes of strategic sourcing, demand management, buy, pack. This was taken as independent tools. Oh, I'm specializing on this. I'm specializing on demand management. I'm doing on this pay and track and all these things around. I'm specializing on supplier relationship management. They were all independent, standalone processes. But today we think them as interrelated processes. Because you can't do SRM without going at the strategic level. So they're all connected in one way. This is the example I just wanted to tell you in terms. Toyotas and Hondas are well known as a car supplier manufacturers. So when they set up their first plant in US, they were also buying most of their item from the same suppliers who were supplying to General Motors, Ford, Suppliers are same who are supplying to Toyotas and Hondas, and same suppliers were supplying to Ford and others. But the difference was there now. The Toyotas and Hondas philosophy, they said, understand your supplier competency. This is the lesson I can learn from this. Learn about suppliers' business, supervise suppliers, and give them a constant feedback. If you're not giving a feedback to suppliers, they will not improve upon it. Develop supplier capability. So building the supplier capability is also a tool for SRM. Share relative information. So you have to ensure that you are sharing all this thing around. Use meetings to problem solving and learning, improve supplier practices. If you feel that you have some best practices around, share with them, help them to improve their practices. So this may means improvement, the development of supplier may help you also to get the right product around. So the bottom line when we look at as SRM, it adds value to your company by bettering your interaction with the suppliers. Trust and information flow are key to the successful relationship. As I said earlier, the trust and sharing of information. If you don't share the information at the right time, it's too late. You're designing something. You don't consult the supplier. You don't have early supplier involvement. If you do ESI, early supplier involvement, the person who's going to make for me, let's say, again in automobile, I'm making a dashboard. The person who's going to do the molding for me, if I get them, I say, guys, this is my design. Supplier can advise you better. If you change this, change the dimension here, change the look here, I can do faster. My production will be faster. So it means the cost will be lower. Quality may be better, or the finish may be better. So this is what I try to say around is trust and information is important around. When we look at the key elements, first thing is supply-based segmentation. It's very important around. You may be having 2,000 suppliers. Some may have, I remember in my organization, we had around 60,000 suppliers. Naturally, if I have to deal with 60,000 suppliers and I have to build relationship with everybody of same type, impossible. I will need many, many procurement officers around. So the first thing is to segment them. I have a big supply base. I will segment them. Who are my strategic suppliers? Who are my leverage suppliers? Who are my routine suppliers? And who are my bottleneck suppliers? So depending on the particular area in terms of my spend, depending on my risk, complexity, I will segment them. And then I will develop my relationship based on that. Then we'll try to say, okay, executive sponsorship. Those who are very critical suppliers to me, those which are dealing with my bottleneck items, I'll try to make executive sponsorship. I mean, there is a support from the top management as well. And then relationship will be governed for critical items and bottleneck items. Then we'll have supplier engagement process. So some supplier, we like to engage them with our activities around. Bring them to our office, bring them to our factories, show them what are the things we are trying to outsource them. They understand the meaning of it. They understand why we are asking for these critical dimensions around. So possibly they can provide us some good input. This is where we call as early supplier involvement as well. At the drawing stage also. I will not release the drawing until my supplier has seen it. So that's what we call the ESI. So I may get the benefit out of it because they are expert in their own areas. Then we have metrics, people skills. People are equally important around. The technology part is very important around. At the end of the day, without the right tools and technology, you can't do it. The components of SRM starts from contract management, managing the delivery, managing the relationship, performance management, supplier development, contract administrations, And last but not the least, is dispute management also there around. That means you really need to see around the dispute management, resolving. How do I manage a dispute around? Can I do with arbitrations? Can I do with negotiations? Can I do with mediations? All the tools you have to work it out. The litigation has to be avoided as far as possible. If you're thinking of a good SRM, we have to avoid the litigation. Litigation really basically kills the trust part. If you look at this relationship strategies also, so you got segmenting them into three, you could segment them into four. So if you really look at the supply positioning model, we are segmenting at four. But then there are strategic supplier, which could be around 5% or 10%. In some organizations, they have seen as only 1%. Then there are key suppliers and technical suppliers. The big chunk, which is around 50%, is a lower run. So in the case of strategic suppliers, we look at a breakthrough performance. In the case of key suppliers, we look for performance management and development. In the case of technical suppliers, we look at contract delivery. So that's where the focus is. My interest in the technical supplier or operational supplier or the routine supplier is delivery, nothing more than that. The relationship is very minimal, I would say now. So tier one supplier, where I'm looking at long-term relationship, they're high values, high risk. At a tier two, I'm looking for a major contract, medium risk. Tier three are the ad hoc ones, low risk. That's what we call it now. This is the one I thought supply positioning model, all of you should know it. It's based on expenditure and the risk. Higher the expenditures on the x-axis goes this way. On the y-axis, on the x-axis and the y-axis we have around. On the y we put, if I got a risk is more, if I got too many suppliers, my risk is very limited. I can, even if one supplier does not deliver me, I got other suppliers to depend on. But if I got only one supplier, there's a monopoly. My risk goes up to H. So we try to divide the whole procurement portfolio or supply portfolio into four boxes. We call as 2x2 matrix. It is based on Peter Krasik model. So there's a one side called leverage. So first we divide 80-20 concepts around. So 80% of the items. So if I list down all the contracts, item by item, so I will take the top 20% if I go with the descending order. So those top 20% of the items will cover 80% of the values. So they are coming under leverage and critical, while the bottom 80%, which are of low values, number wise they are 80%, but the value wise they are 20%, will come under routine and bottlenecks. Routine means the way you can see in the pictures around, the guy is relaxed. If one supplier leaves me, I've got someone else to go. Leverage means I'm trying to make saving. Because that's where my 80% of the money is absorbed. If 80% of the money is going to leverage item, so any hammering there, any further bashing on somebody's head, mean I'm able to get extra savings. Critical, very critical. Few choices. That means you have to build a wonderful relationship here. So this is the area which is suitable for alliances. So if you want to build up a relationship, you want to build alliances, all items which fall under critical has to go with that. The next area is bottleneck. Item is of low values, but it's a very bottleneck items, very critical item. It can disrupt my whole line. I might be waiting for few, I might be in the aeroplane business, I'm assembling the aeroplanes. But if few bolts and nuts are not there, which are very critical, I can't deliver the aeroplanes. So bottleneck items, low values, but very important in terms of delivery. Now same thing I'm trying to put up in these parameters. You got a portfolio analysis, bottleneck, strategic, leverage, non-critical mean routine item. Same thing if you can categorize it. Strategic has strategic supplier. So the bottleneck and the leverage, more or less both of them comes under the key suppliers, and non-critical is the technical supplier. So the technical supplier may be 80 persons, key suppliers could be 19 persons, because those are the one mainly leverage items, few bottleneck items, but bottleneck doesn't have much values. Leverage is the major one, and strategic is only 1%. So that's the place where I'm going to involve executive involvements around. Here also you can see the perception model, how supplier looks at you. The level of attractiveness. Is the business what you're giving to the supplier is only a very small part of their pie, maybe 0.5% or 0.2% of the whole pie of theirs? Attractiveness is very low. The value of business is very low. But if it is a very high percentage, the value of the business is high. Level of attractiveness. If they feel, okay, if I get this business, that shows that they are attractive toward this. I mean, they feel, oh, this is a long-term things around. Here you can see core business. Core has got a high value of business from our side as a buyer. From the level of attractiveness also they feel, okay, it's a big amount for them as well. So from the supplier side and from the buyer side, both are core. They will love to get that business around. They would like to develop the bottleneck areas also. Because they feel, okay, if I put some efforts, this will be ongoing. Marginal mean they feel, oh guys, I'm being exploited. I will not get a good saving here. I know there are many other suppliers and buyers can anytime change me. So the level of attractiveness is lower, value of business is lower, then there's an exploit. Supplier knows very well, although it's not very attractive, but the value of business is big. Buyer can exploit me, so then they also exploit you. They would like to milk you. Guys, come on, let me try this business. If I get higher price, fine, great. So same thing I tried to put around in a different parameters. You can see exploitable customer. Customer mean the buyer, you milk it. Preferred customers, you are dealing with the core businesses. Development mean how can we help? And the below you find irritating customers. Customer is giving us small values, but asking tens of questions around. He says, guy, you have a nuisance. So this type of thing we normally advise the use of e-catalogs, so there are less of issues involved. Now here is another one word, SRM versus SPM. This question comes very oftenly. Supplier relationship management versus supplier performance management. So I would call in a one word, supplier performance management is a subset of SRM. So it's a subset of SRM. Without doing the performance, you can't manage the supplier. If you don't know how to measure it, you can't manage it. To managing means you have to measure the performance around. The type of activities which has to be done together by the supplier and the buyer. Obviously, supplier summits have to be done sometime. Call the suppliers, as I said earlier also. Invite them, show them around your premises, show them your factories, show them your office environments. They know very well the contract which they're getting around, where it is used. Who are the stakeholders? So they get a complete picture of the stakeholders, the concepts, with whom to deal, executive to executive meetings. So their people should know who is my category manager, who's the next senior persons around. So they know very well if there's issues around, whom to call, whom to do. Strategic business planning meetings. So sometimes you're coming with the long-term plans, future plans. So you must do strategic planning meeting along with the supplier. I'm coming with a new product, and 70 to 80% of it is coming from various suppliers. If they don't cooperate me, my product will not see the day of the light. So I have to involve them into strategic business planning meetings. With the joint business planning meetings around, operational business reviews around, So that means we should be also looking at their operation part. How are they doing around? So that day-to-day basis, I think we need to look at the operational side. Now here it gives you a little SRM model around. I think this is also interesting to understand. Here you can see SRM has broadly three activities around. Sourcing, managing, and the last is development. Obviously you're sourcing somebody. You're entering into a contract with someone. But while sourcing also you're ensuring supplier reduction. I will not use the reduction, I would say rationalizing the program. So you're doing the rationalizations. That's why on the left side you see the number of suppliers. Rationalizing. Then you're also trying to know what type of contract is going to be there. You know very well. When you're trying to rationalize, you're trying to think also side by side, what type of contracts I'm giving. Am I giving a long-term contract for 2 years? I'm giving only one contract for the part-time trial basis. So sourcing is the time you get involved as SRM. But once the contract has been signed and then SRM people you try to bring in, it's too late. So SRM people have to be involved at the sourcing stage. What type of contracts you're going to make it around? If during the sourcing I find these items are really critical items, very strategic item, SRM will like to put their ideas, their thoughts into this. Then comes the managing part. The managing means in the contract administration you got hundreds of contracts you might have signed. You want to know which are the contracts around. Then again, behind each contract, you also know what type of relation you're trying to make it. Is it ongoing items? Is it a high value items? Then you manage the contract. And lastly, if you feel there are few suppliers who are not doing as per your expectation, you work with them. You try to develop them. Develop by sharing the best practices, sharing the new thoughts around, new technologies around, or helping them in whatever way you can. That's supply development. So rationalizing is the very first step which I showed and discussed in the previous slide also. To do rationalizing, we can also use the concept of SWOT analysis. I know that you all must be knowing about SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity. When you do it for every supplier in the supply base, and then you say, guys, okay, what are the strength, weakness, whom I should keep it, whom I should get rid of. Then you got data mining tools coming from ERP, accounting, portals. You're trying to evaluate the performance of each suppliers. And then you're also looking at supply-based rationalization. Then we have supplier categories. So when we do rationalization, we're talking of categories, we're talking of segmentations. So this gives you the supply-based rationalization. When we talk of supply-based, you need a cross-functional team. I'm looking at the performance, I'm looking at the contract management, I'm looking at whether the item is critical or not. You alone, procurement people can't do it. It has to be done in a cross-functional team. Design people have to be involved, the production people have to be involved, the quality people have to be involved, the marketing people have to be involved. So it's a cross-functional team which works together. Supplier measurement system has to be there. Strategy development process has to be there. And lastly but not the least, it has to be 80-20 approach. You know very well, we cannot cover all the 100. This will be too cost intensive for you, too labor intensive for you. You need to focus basically for strategical critical item. Come to the categories part. Here's a big list. I know many of you might be using it, only the few of them, but still let me walk through. One is called approved supplier. You've gone through the review, you've gone through the evaluation process, you call them approved supplier. Then there are preferred supplier who meets your expectations. Partner supplier. So you are thinking of a long-term relation of strategic importance. Then you certify a supplier once they have gone through this, have supplied you something. So partner supplier is still on the paper, but certified means they have delivered you something. Pre-qualified again, then certifiable, as the name indicates, able to pass but still have not completed the process. The disqualified one, you are not happy, the work was very poor. And debar, you sometimes suppliers are debarred guide suspended. On a temporary basis, guys, till you improve this, I'm not going to take you. So better improve your product, change this, bring these changes around, then we will look into this. So this is the broad categories which are used when we're talking of SRM. I could narrow down those things starting from segmentation from basic, valued, preferred supplier, and the last is strategy. You can also put these four into those 2 by 2 matrix. Strategics are critical items. Preferred ones are the one with the bottleneck. Valued are the one with the leverage, and the basic is the one with routine items. So this is how you can link all this segmentation with that. Now coming at the relationship model, as I showed you earlier, the starting is a very adversarial type, arm's length type, transaction type. Then we come to partnership mode, and the last is collaborative mode. So many of your suppliers will be falling into this. Develop and manage effective SRM. So when it comes to managing and developing effective SRM, so the factor comes up is everybody has to understand the benefits of a good supplier relationship. If you are not feeling confident, well, relationship, the supplier may take benefit of it, then I think you're on the wrong track. So you have to find the benefits for you as well as for the supplier. Confidentiality policies that your information will be not leaked out and you will not leak their information to anybody. Trust, as I said earlier, issues and reciprocity. Sometimes reciprocity also has a negative connotation. That means you're buying some parts from them and they buy the end product from you. You're making a very closed loop. There could be antitrust issues around. So one has to look at that part. Then the continuous improvement. Keep in mind, as we discussed in strategic sourcing, it is not a one-time job. It's an ongoing job. You might think that I've done the improvements, but again on a yearly basis or 6-month basis or 2 years basis, it has to be based on the feedback, it has to be continuously improved. Supplier partnership, reverse marketing. Here let me touch also. Sometimes you have to market your things around. Some good suppliers have got a wonderful product. And you feel that if this supplier can supply me, because it's their know-how, my product quality improves. So if that factor comes in, let's say if I'm buying X or Y parts from some supplier, improves the mileage of my vehicles, gives me an advantage, I would like to do reverse marketing, like to convince the supplier that they should work with us. So marketing is not only from selling, even the procurement people also has to do marketing to the supplier. That's why I'm calling reverse marketing. Supply chain management, supply base innovations. A little more clarification you'll find in the few slides further. So benefits of a good supplier relationship, obviously total cost goes down, speed to the market. If relations are very good, supplier knows very well that we work hand in hand and the guy is able to deliver you in time. So in the process, you're able to go to the market quicker. Any innovation they bring around in their product, that innovation you take the benefit. And achieving diversity initiatives around those. So that way, suppose your suppliers are from different parts. So you're trying to encourage diversity initiative also. Like in the US, they have this diversity initiatives, entrepreneurs, which are women entrepreneurs, or those who are from minorities part. So that way you try to encourage those suppliers as well and achieve the diversity initiative. When we talk of promoting good relationship, the one way that you organize a meeting with the top management, relationship between supplier and customer functions, timely payment of invoices, key thing I would say around. The money is short and everybody works for money. But if they don't get the money in time, their own processes stops around. So equitable treatment of suppliers. You treat them equally respectfully. You need to do the supplier survey. You might have seen one supplier 2 years back or 3 years back. You need to periodically see any improvements are coming around. Idea is that you want them to become a preferred customers. Supplier product educations, I think, goes a long way. If you can organize supplier clinics, and in those clinics we show them the product, obviously they have a better understanding of the process, they have better understanding of particular dimension which we are asking for, possible problem, they can tell us what problem they have and what problem we have, so we can share both things around. Site visits, supplier days, we could have supplier days where we can share the information around. Alliances and collaboration, I've told you already. The word alliances, if I had to summarize in one line, that means two parties, the buyer and seller, work together and both are expected to get values out of it. It's not only one. It is a win-win situation. It's not a win-lose. I'm not going to hammer on the supplier to get the benefit and I just leave the supplier as it is. As I said in the beginning, relationship is not about hammering or bashing on supplier's head. It is of working together. So it's having value addition for them and value addition for you. Supplier development. This also is very critical. At the end of the day, you want to develop suppliers. Reverse marketing, some suppliers are very good. You have to be aggressive approach to develop relationship with them, so convince them and persuade them to come and work with you. Supplier mentorship, some suppliers need mentoring on TQM. If some lending capital, they are very small suppliers, you may like to help them. Some training, you may like to help them. Early supplier involvement is very critical, early ESI. So if I'm getting an ESI, instead of making a design, then sending to the suppliers, supplier telling me, guys, this will take you more time because your design is too labor intensive. If you make these changes, I can do faster. So in the process, if I get ESI earlier supplier involvement, I could have saved my time for this way. I could have got their feedback during the design stage before I launch it. Supply-based innovation. I think this is very important. Again, I'm summarizing that 70% of my items of my products are coming from supplier. Any innovation done by supply base, basically I gain the benefits around. I get the value out of it. So that's where I think we need to get the benefit from the supplier. Supplier diversity programs, we have to develop it and implement it. Now in some countries this is a must, and this is basically to promote, in the US I would call around in the women entrepreneurs and minority entrepreneurs. So to entrepreneur them, they encourage the big companies to use them. So source of information on socially or economical disadvantaged suppliers, the list is available. So if I can use those suppliers who are coming from economically disadvantaged group, I think that's the way I'm bringing diversity around. Now the next comes supplier qualification plan. So you need to do supply chain planning, mapping. So the whole mapping has to be done from beginning to end. There we use the score model. In the score model, I can say from where the sourcing is happening. I can go even one step further, supplier, 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 tier 1, tier 2 supplier, and the return part also. So you have to really understand the whole chain and try to see where I need to build my relationship. Where do I need to share my information? That's how it goes on. Quality systems, you need to ensure the supplier has got ISO 9000s. Supplier has got these certifications around which may help you to improve the product. Again, in the qualification plan, you will be obviously looking at the logistic systems, Financial analysis of the companies around, whether financially the company is strong, whatever assets they have, are they getting the return on investments? Is the company going into losses around? I know in some companies, if the contract is more than a high value, let's say $1 million or more, D&B report is a must. So Dun and Bradstreet report is looked at it before the contract is awarded. Supplier evaluation measures. So we look at another thing around, we look around is up-to-date equipment and facilities, ability to expand. We look at the process cycle time. Can we cut the cycle time? How is the housekeeping in the companies? How is the status of the back order? If I'm a supplier, they will look at my back orders, how much time I take to do it. Supplier evaluation system. I'm a supplier, I'm also depending on some suppliers around. So that means, do I evaluate them? Do I have an evaluation system? How do I measure the performance of my suppliers? As a buyer, I'm checking your performance, but the supplier checking their supplier. The management capabilities as well. The next one comes again evaluation. I think ISO 9000. We are looking around the leadership part, labor relationship, 14,000 financials, current liability versus current asset. This is the key test I would call around. We call it a litmus test, particularly when you want to see whether the company is insolvent or not. Working capital, past major customers, ability to raise capital. The team may consider currency risk, the TCO, the supplier evaluations by cross-functional team. So if you're looking at evaluation, if I'm a procurement person only doing the evaluation, I look from my perspective. My perspective will be, oh, they delivered in time. The price was low. But my other team members who could be from design, who could be from manufacturing, they come with the different skill sets. They look at much more than that. So I think this evaluation should be done by cross-functional team. So this is the SCORE model, which gives you broad ideas around starting from plan, source, make, deliver, return. Same thing your supplier is going through it. Same thing your customer is going through it. Customer does not mean this is the final customer. Customer could be in between distributors, could be retailers, till the final customers comes up. That we'll call as a consumer then. Performance evaluations, capacity to undertake different orders. If today I've given an order for 10,000 pieces, tomorrow my requirement goes to 15,000, can they take additional order? Deliveries reliability is more than 80%. How is the reliability part? If I give an order, they fix the date, based on the past performance, I can say reliability is 80%. I can live with that. Quality history, how many defects, parts per million. Make or buy program, look for cost effective. Should I make it myself or buy from outside? Some items you might be doing in-house. But then you think, guys, this is creating too much nuisance. I have always frequent disruptions. So instead of doing in-house, I make it a buy program, instead of making program, cycle, lead time. This also will be looked at. Productivity, key measures of process efficiencies, flexibility, references, electronic capabilities. Does the company have RFID? Can I track it? Can I trace it? And the breadth of the product line. If the supplier has got a very narrow product, only one type of items, that is also only for me, so choices are very limited. Now, when we get into the site visit and we're trying to check the health of the supplier, we call it Supplier Health Analysis, SHA. If we are trying to conduct the SHA of a supplier, we go and make a site visit. First thing is the reason for conducting the site visit is critical I would say. It's a build-up relationship. If I go and visit the company, half the knowledge I get whether this company is really organized. How do they manage the quality? I don't see any chart on the wall. I don't see any instruction to the supplier, manufacturer, the worker who is working on the machine. If I go around a workshop, I see the worker is doing some assembly. The guy doesn't have any instruction sheets. this could affect the quality. So that means this is what you're going to look around, cost versus benefit of the visits. Sometimes benefits outweigh. I know sometimes suppliers may be in a global world today. When the suppliers are coming from different parts of the world, sometimes it may not be practical to travel and visit everybody, but still I would say, depending on the amount, depending on the relationship, I think you need to visit them before you come to the final dot. Guys, we will work together as alliance. Site inspection team again has to be cross-functional. Timings. So before you make a decisions, I think should be done before that. Not that you have made a decision, now you say, guys, oh, let's go and visit the company. It's too late. So before you make a final decision, timing of the visit has to be there around. And timing also counts around. In some countries, there's a vacation period. You may not get half the information around. So you have to plan accordingly. Performance audits, factors appraised at a site factory. What do you look as? First thing is housekeeping, housekeeping, housekeeping. The impression of any company you get, any organization you get, first by housekeeping. Half the impression is that you walk into that, you find everything is clean and neat. When the parts are being assembled, you know very well half the dust will not get into those. Key indicators of the culture of the company. Second comes the process and material flow. Walk the flow to check. So when you are looking at a particular part, starting from beginning, till it is assembled, till the work is done, walk through the flow to check what are the issues involved. Make your own observations. Are there disruptions? Is it moving smoothly? We also look at the employee morale. Are the people motivated? Are they looking for only a chance to get out of the office, factory? That could also affect the quality and productivity. Measurements of KPI. KPI is important. So when you walk around and visit around, you must say, guys, I want to see the KPI. How are you keeping the track of it? So that's important around. So that also should be there on the shop floor, everywhere around. People should be visible, everything should be visible, how the performance is. The last one is the exit strategies. Obviously, you made a wonderful relationship, but during that time, you find the supplier is not working as per your expectation. The reason could be manifold. One could be that your requirement is very small, only 1% of the supplier business. Supplier doesn't give any importance to your business. Attractiveness of your business is very less for the supplier. So in those situations, when the performance are not going as per you, you would like to have exit strategy. But keep in mind, exit is not easy. You just can't say from tomorrow, I don't want to work with you. Supplier might be keeping some toolings of you, some assets of you, some documentation of you. You need the documentation, you need the tooling back. There may be some parts have been progressed already. They're going to claim money for that. There could be a legal risk as well. So keep in mind, supplier exit strategy is not without problem. So you have to really plan it and then execute it. Lastly, again, any new concepts around whether it's SRM or P2P, anything around, you need a technology. So for SRM also, there are technologies available, softwares are available, which caters you to give you complete information in terms of performance, in terms of a contract, reliability, every information you can pull from there. Well, friend, thanks again. And the show goes on. But this gives you a broad picture about SRM to maximize